Gadget UK here again. As you can see, a GameCube from Nintendo. So yeah, it's a bit dirty, it's got some marks and things on there. They should clean up okay though. They're not massive, you know, they're not scratches. I've seen some of these where they're really scratched. And it's in generally good condition actually, apart from some, you know, severe yellowing on the front there. But yeah, I'll take this apart, I think, clean up the case, remove the fascia here, treat that with some H2O2, get it under a UV lamp for an hour or two. I might need to treat some of the case as well, because you see it's like at the back here it's more of a purple and it goes a sort of more of a dark blue towards the front. So yeah, it would benefit from certainly the top part of the case, this part here, to be treated with some H2O2 as well, I think. Yeah, we've got a flap missing here. I'm not sure what that port is supposed to be. You've got serial port 1 and 2. I'm not sure about that one. It's just like a, you know, perhaps parallel expansion port or something. One of the nice things about this, and one of the reasons I wanted one of these, is you know, you can clip the what's it called, Game Boy player on underneath and play Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games. So that's a nice way of being able to play GBA games on a TV. My parents picked this up from a car boot sale just recently actually. We've got a PS1, the smaller one, which you'll see in a future video, at the same time as this for £15, so they worked out about £7.50 each, which is pretty good really. Yeah, it's in good condition. So and it also came with the game already on the drive. Now I've already got this game, yeah, Rogue Leader. I got the Star Wars games for the GameCube, you know, from a Wii. So I do have the originals box with instructions and everything, but you know, there's no marks on it. It's good as new. So that's always handy to have a spare of that. So power supply's just arrived. It also came with one of these awful third-party controllers. So not sure what this is all about. Can you see you do that, or you pull it the other way? So I'm not sure what the purpose of that is actually. It'll be interesting to see. We'll give it a go in a minute. Hopefully this will work. There's no telling whether this needs a new laser or not. So I've got the power supply connected down there. I've got a cheap RGB lead as well. It was like a few pounds I think. So I'll switch it on. Let's have a look at the TV and see what's going on. Sorry, the sun is right in the way there, isn't it? That's a bit better I think. It's loading. Good God. So it looks like the laser seems to be working just at the moment. Okay, no memory card. Yeah, I've got some memory cards somewhere from when I've you know, messed around with the GameCube stuff on a Wii. And I've got a GameCube controller actually that I got for the Wii as well. So I do have one if this controller's awful. One of the things I like about the GameCube is the graphics, the sharpness of the sprite. I mean, look at that, the polygons and things and the textures, it's just so good. They did such a great job I think on the GameCube. You compare to the consoles of the same generation, they're not quite as good looking, I don't think. Maybe the PS2 is, but the Xbox games didn't look quite as good to me as some of the GameCube stuff. You skip the intro. I don't think you can. So I've adjusted the camera a little bit there, just so you can see a little bit clearer, because there was quite a lot of light bloom there, just because it's a really bright sunny day here. God, it's got bright again, I can't even see now, it's getting that bright in here. So to get inside this, I guess it's going to be the same game bit adapter here, yeah it is, as an N64 and SNES. It's nice that Nintendo seem to stick with the same screws and things over the years. So it looks like the 4 screws in the corners, and then hopefully some of it should come off. So I've got the 4 screws out. I think hopefully now lid, yeah, it should just come straight off. That's nice. Yeah, that'll make cleaning the lid up now super easy. You can see the difference here. Can you see the colour difference? If you look at the back there, it's more like a purplish sort of colour, and as you get towards the front here, it's like a faded blue. So yeah, we'll perhaps retro buy that as well, although it's not as important as the front piece, but hopefully that piece will come off fairly easily as well. Look at the fan, look how dirty that is. So yeah, we'll be taking that fan out and cleaning that down. You can see some fluff and stuff here, and these switches. I think I think there's 2 switches there, I'm not sure why. One of them's going to be for the lid, I guess. Maybe one of them's for one of the buttons. No, it can't be. It's at the back, isn't it? It corresponds with the underneath of there, so it's a bit weird. Maybe they've got two. Well, there's only 2 wires coming to it, so I think it's just they've used 2 switches just to make sure it's extra reliable, perhaps. Yeah, so that switch there is for the reset. I think that's the reset. Yeah, so this front fascia, I think it probably pulls forward. Yeah, it's come off on this corner here. Let's see if we can get that side off. Yep, there we go. And then we've got a ribbon here. So I just need to just carefully disconnect that from down there, I think. Like that. So yeah, I should be able to get the plastic bit off this now and treat that with some H2O2. I'm going to do that first because that's my main thing that's bugging me about this. I'm not so worried about the purple plastic there. It's not that bad actually. And after it's all been cleaned up and that's de-yellowed, it should look pretty presentable. Got a battery on there as well, so we'll check that battery whilst we're there. So it's such a bright day today, I thought I'd just have to go with just natural sunlight here actually. It's a bit dim now because there's a few clouds covering the sun there, but as you can see I've just covered it with some H2O2, some Bubble-On actually, and then just wrapped it with cling film. So we'll just leave that for a few hours and I'll perhaps give it another coat later. Might need to repeat the same thing tomorrow. And the only thing that was holding this PCB here onto that fascia were 2 screws, you know, the 2 screws there. So you get those 2 screws out, it'll just come straight off. So we've got some fluff there, let's clean that out of the way. We'll just measure that battery. So I'm guessing this battery is going to be for the real-time clock and system settings and stuff. You can see 2.8 volts there. Bear in mind it's not been powered up for a while, but I don't think it's rechargeable. Let's just have a quick look. I think that's probably... Yeah, it's just a CR2032. By the looks of things, it's not a rechargeable one, it's just a CR2032. Yeah, so I think these 4 screws should hold the fan in. I'm getting covered in dust just unscrewing the damn thing. Disconnect that from there. And then we might be able to, yeah, you can see that. Just move the camera a little bit. There you go, the fan's come out, so we can clean that now on its own. And clean the cavity as well. So I can't use the vacuum just at the moment because my wife's doing something actually in the other room. She needs some quiet. So I'm just going to use a cotton bud with some IPA and go over this and go over it several times and then use some kitchen roll just to wipe it down and stuff and just make sure I've got as much dust off this as I can. Probably a good idea just to go around the circumference like that first of all, actually the outer edge. You can see how dirty that is, it's actually minging. Good God. Yeah, it would have been better to have vacuumed it to start with and then do the cotton bud afterwards, really. But we'll get there eventually. So as you can see, I've cleaned the fan up there on both sides. It's nice and clean now, and just leaked a bit of oil into that, you know, into the very edge there. Try and get it into where the bearings are on it. These are, I think, they're brushless. These things. You've got to be careful. You can't. Sometimes you can snap the top off in order to get access to the underneath, but to be honest, you'll break them most of the time. But what you don't want to do is spray WD-40 into fans because it's solvent, and whilst it's got some lubrication capability, what you find is you can, if you've got a squeaky or noisy fan, you spray WD-40 in there, it can start to work immediately, where it starts to solve the problem. You're like, oh great, the noise has gone away. But then in a very short period of time, maybe an hour or so later, even half an hour later, after it's continuously run, the oil wears out and the solvent has, you know, sort of destroyed the oil effectively, and then it starts to sound even worse. Yeah, you'll know what I mean if you've tried spraying WD-40 into fans and things previously. It can, you know, it can unseize a seized fan, but ultimately it will just get really, really noisy. Whereas if you just get a proper dedicated lubricant into it, you'll find, and a spray one's perhaps better, you know, a proper lubrication spray, you'll find that it shouldn't make a horrible grinding noise. So you've seen me do this 100 times before, but yeah, just clean the laser lens while we're here as well. Just very delicately. Interesting thing with these is the DVDs, they're not CDs. Well, the DVDs, they're the reduced size of DVDs, you know, the ones that you use for like camcorders and things. I forget the exact size, I'll perhaps put it up here in a minute, but you can burn the disc for these. I've got like one of these Xeno mod chips on the way, so at some point I'll mod this I do plan on getting lots of originals for it, but some of the titles can be quite pricey, so just in order to test things out, I guess, and play some of the games that are harder to find, it's easy just to get a mod chip for one of these and burn some discs. So I still need to vac around the whole inside of the cavity. You can see there's just everywhere, but now I've cleaned the fan up and cleaned that switch up there. I just want to just test it and just see how quiet that fan is really. So I'm just quickly testing it here, so you can hear that fan's dead silent now. Actually, if I just turn it that way, you can see the fan here, and I need to pull these little switches, so you can't see this. I need to just hold these switches back a little bit, just so that it's simulating the lid being shut. Switch it on. Yeah, that's on. Silent that. If I just mute the TV, yeah, I can feel some good airflow from that, and it's not making a noise. Interesting thing, this is one of the ones where, because it's a DVD, you can just about see the laser. You might not be able to see it on the camera, but there's a little red dot there. So yeah, be careful not to look directly anywhere near, sort of directly above it. And the other interesting thing here, I'll point out, I've not got the control PCB connected at the moment, so there's no battery. Yeah, it's not giving any errors, it boots the game straight away, so that's interesting. So I've got some other GameCube games actually. I've got some Resident Evil games and some of the Star Wars Rogue One games, as I mentioned. I think it's only about 5 or 6, but I also got this. This is one that Scott from the Console Snob sent me. Bloody Raw Primal Fury. So we'll just give this a go. It seems to be working alright. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I do love the graphics on the GameCube. And as you can see, it's just sort of ad hoc, just hanging together here. I'm still waiting for the bits to retrowrite. Need to clean up the case, need to retrowrite the case as well, but just for the moment I just want to just test it. And I think the next thing I'm going to do, one thing I've noticed with this controller, I'm going to take this thing to bits here. This is pretty crap actually, it's awful. One of the things I noticed is, normally when you're playing the Rogue Squadron or whatever it's called, Rogue Leader, this thumbstick here, you can go left, right and up and down, and the left right doesn't do anything, you can only move up and down. And the way you go left and right on that game is you use this, you pull it one way to go one way, or you squeeze it, is it locked? I'm not sure, yeah, you go like that to go one way, or that to go the other way, rather than left or right, which is just bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers, and there doesn't seem to be any way to configure it. That's just the way it is. So what I'm hoping is this can be modified. It might be a case if I have to replace the stick in there, the potentiometer or whatever, because it might be a single axis. But if I'm lucky, I might just be able to just do it with a couple of wires. If that's a two-directional axis pot there, I might just be able to hardwire it. But yeah, this thing's awful. It really is, this controller. So let's have a look at this piece of junk. Let's get these screws out. So I've got all the screws out of this piece of junk. As you can see, it's produced a budget, certainly. Pretty cheap design and stuff inside. The interesting thing is, I don't know if I've shown you, on this side here, you can see I took the thumbstick off. Can you see we've got both axes on this? Axes, is that real word? Axis. Axes, yeah, I'm not sure what the plural is for that. Axes. We've got both axes there for that part. So you don't need to do a mod, I don't think. I think it must be a way of switching it. And I think on closer inspection of this area here, can you see we've got a little micro switch down here? Here is what switches it over. I think between the using that stupid rotate thing and the X-axis on the thumbstick. So yeah, I've cleaned those contacts up there with a bit of sandpaper, just tested, make sure it works. It does. So yeah, I think it just needs clean and reassemble this now. There's some crustiness, as you can see. Sorry, a bit closer. Some crustiness around this and stuff. So I just need to clean it up and then carefully reassemble it, I think. So I started with a man flu here actually, so my voice is going all over the place at the moment. But as you can see, that was left overnight. Now I had about 4 coats yesterday, 4 repeats, just sat in there in the corner near the sun, but it was pretty cloudy and overcast. There was hardly any sun at all, but as you can see, that's pretty much good as new. Might need one more treatment, I'm not sure, but the biggest change there has come from just leaving it overnight in a dark room actually, with the dry coat on it. It's amazing how much it still works even though it's all dried up. So I've got the same thing with the flap, as you can see. Flap's pretty much good as new, and the case. Now the interesting thing with the case is, you can see I only covered sort of half. So as I clean this off, I'm going to have to inspect it really closely just to make sure that I've got sufficient on there, I've not got streaks and things like that. But at the back end of it, it hadn't yellowed. It was just sort of the front here. But we'll see what it looks like when I've cleaned it up. So we're sort of at that point of diminishing returns, really, where, you know, the more times you treat this, the longer and longer and longer it takes, and you don't get massive change there. You can see it's considerably better than it was, but you can still see, you know, this side here, it's just still a bit dark. It's probably going to come out worse on the camera than it is doing to my eye here. Just looking at the viewfinder, yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to come across. It does look just a little bit, like I say, just a bit faded still, but that's considerably better compared to where we started. Now I could keep going, and I have ordered some more peroxide, so I might just show it in a follow-up video when I perhaps do the teardown to you know, measure the voltage of the RF signal and to add a mod chip. So I might cover an update then. But right now, actually, I want to play this system. I want to reassemble it, and unless you've got this fascia on the front of the controller board there, you just have to have the thing hanging out. I'll show you, because the mounts, you know, the mounts are on the sides there. So if you want to use the GameCube in an exposed state, you just have this hanging out. You know, the ribbon's then pretty delicate, could get damaged. So I need to reassemble it. I want to reassemble it because I want to play it. So yeah, for the moment, I'm going to settle with how that is, I think. There's just a mark there, might come off with a bit of IPA or plastic cleaner or something, but yeah, it's a lot better, I think. It's working fine, and the controller, yeah, it was just the switch, you know, the switch under this part here where you turn it and twist it, and as you see, if I go left and right now, you can actually change the map. That's working. So yeah, I mean, it's an awful stick, it seriously is, but I guess it's designed to be used like as a steering wheel. You know, you hold one hand and then just slide the other one like that to turn, kind of thing. But yeah, it's not very ergonomic, but all the buttons and things are working now. It's all cleaned up. So I've got a few of my GameCube games here actually that I used to use with the Wii. I've also got Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 2 somewhere. Yeah, so I've got the two Star Wars ones, Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Squadron 3, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil, Code Veronica, and Eternal Darkness, and then there's the one you saw earlier, that Blood Roar, whatever it's the thing that Scott from the console snub sent me. Let's have a go at Eternal Darkness. It's supposed to be very good, this. I think this is one of those games, if you like the Resident Evil games, you'll love this. Another thing I like about this is the way the discs clip in. You know, you push them in and then you've got this little reflective sticker on the top that you just push it down and the disc just slides off. It's a really nice little mechanism, that. Yeah, I'd say that's working alright. So I've got an old cheap compatible controller here I used to use with my Wii, and it sat in the sun for a long period. Can you see? This is pretty yellowed as well, the buttons are yellowed, all around the thumbstick's yellowed. Yeah, that's not yellowed, it's yellow already. So yeah, I'm going to take this apart and de-yellow these while I'm here as well. If this was an original controller, I might spend more time and actually do the whole thing, because can you see how purple it is on the inside versus the outside? It's gone more of a blue on the outside, but actually I'm quite comfortable with the way it looks on the outside. You know, it's yeah, it's kind of like a dark blue. I'm quite happy with that. It's interesting the way it's faded, and if you look at the red buttons here, the red button rather, you can just about see on the top, it's a subtle shade different from the bottom of the button. It's the same with the green. You can see with the green just on the top here, it's gone darker, if anything. But I'm okay with those. They look all right. You know, the red and green buttons look fine from the top. But these, as you can see, you know, if you look at the bit that's not yellowed, yeah, they're considerably yellowed, those, where the UV's got onto them from the sun. So and obviously it's the same with the X and Y buttons as well. So I'll do all of those, do the D-pad, get that, and then I'll reassemble it. So I thought whilst I'm here, I'll have a go at fitting this mod chip actually as well. It's just one of these Zen 8 GC chips. You can get these pretty cheap actually, £1 or £2 from various places. I think AliExpress and eBay is your best place to look for one of these. So I may check the laser voltage while I'm there. It just depends whether I can find what looks like an RF test pad. So in order to get to the underneath of the PCB here, I think I'm going to take out all of the screws around the sides. Maybe these ones down here as well. You can see that. Just put the camera over. Yeah, there's just one or two there. Yeah, the front piece comes off. That's all right. So I can get access to those. Here and here, and I think the ones on the controller ports here, I think this is going to need to perhaps come off, or certainly the screws. These are probably mounted onto the board, I would think. So I'm not sure I needed to separate this bit from here. I probably could have left that on and just disconnected the connector here, and then that just feeds out this gap. You know, you can just pull that wire out of that gap like that, and then that piece comes off. So once you've got all the screws and things out, the optical unit just comes off, and you can see where it mates up with the board underneath there. So yeah, I'll get the vacuum onto this, get rid of some of the bits of fluff and dust from the edges of that heatsink there. It does have some SMD electrolytics, so at some point in future these could be a point of concern. I'll inspect them just to make sure they're okay, but yeah, they look alright to me, nice shiny points. And this has been working. I've been playing Resident Evil 4 actually for the last week. Got about halfway into the game. It's really good actually, the GameCube version. I did play it previously on the Wii, you know, so obviously the Wii's got the sort of slightly enhanced, better textures, higher polygon count stuff, but it's still very good, still a very good game on the GameCube. So I think what we need to do next is, I think it's going to be under here. There's going to be a control PCB under here, so I need to unscrew the little screws you can see here to get this shielding off to get access to the drive PCB underneath, and hopefully we'll find the position to mount the mod chip, and hopefully an RF test pad. So looking at the PCB here, you can see this is where it mounts roughly, and I need to get solder points into those two positions there, and obviously you've got to make connection with the relevant things underneath. So position is critical. You can see, you know, there's a bit of movement there. You can move that all over the bloody place. So yeah, I'll have to inspect with the magnifying glass just to make sure you get it in the right place. I did have a look briefly for a test pad. I found something somewhere, I can't remember where it's gone now. Just bear with me, I'll show you, hang on. Yeah, so we're on Super Macro here. You can see we've got RFP over here. So I think that might be a test point. There's also RFN. I'm not sure what the N and the P designates, negative, positive, it could be something completely different. You've also got the balance and stuff here, you know, focus, balance, tracking balance. So yeah, and I thought that's the pot used to adjust the laser voltage. I'm not going to be adjusting that, but yeah, I think what I'll have to do is solder a wire onto those, RFN, RFP pads, and just trail them out and connect my scope up to that. It's going to be, you know, because the connector, as you can see, what's it called? Connector's down there, so this has got to be connected to the board, so you can't get a probe into there. So yeah, I will need to just run a wire off and hope that doesn't interfere or cause a problem. But I'll give it a go, and we'll just see what the scope shows on each of those wires. So as per previous videos, I've just got the square wave there going from top to bottom, so that's showing 2 volts peak to peak. Now the interesting thing is I've just tested this, and the level is so low that I have to crank it up to the next setting. So instead of what's it set to at the moment, 20 millivolts, it's 10 millivolts. Yeah, you'll see in a minute. Right, so as you can see, I've got the probe connected up there, and I'll put it with the scope. Now I need to hold the switch, the lid sense switch down while I switch it on. Connect on the ground actually. So you can see straight away we've got something going on there. It's not very visible at all now. It's loading. If I change it from 20 millivolts to 10 millivolts, so I've increased, you know, I've doubled the height there, if you like. So, you know, instead of it being 0.25, it's probably like 0.125 now per division, I think, if my brain is serving me properly. But you can see we've got an RF signal there, and this is on the RFP test pad. The interesting thing is we've got 1, 2 and a bit. So that's really low. Now that might be the case because remember this is using DVD, not CD. So I'd appreciate in the comments below if there's any experts out there on adjusting DVD based systems. What sort of voltage peak to peak would you expect on the RF test pad? Because I could be in the wrong place. The RFP pad that I'm using at the moment might not be the right place to measure this, and I'm measuring with reference to ground, and that might be incorrect. So we did see that there was an RFN test pad. Should I be going between RFP and RFN? I'm not sure, but anyway, there it is. So yeah, I would estimate from that we've got just over 0.25, maybe 0.28 or 0.27, something like that. So what's that, about 270, 280 millivolts, maybe something around that region. But yeah, I'm not sure that's right. I couldn't find a service manual for the GameCube. So I mean, I'll leave this bit in here. I'm not suggesting that this is the right way to monitor it, and what voltage you should be getting there is what we're looking at now. You know, maybe that's not correct. I don't know. I'm just leaving this open for comments, really, just to see what anybody else can suggest. So using the 0.2 volt setting, and my probe's on ×10 impedance here, you can see I've got, 2 blocks, 1 block each for each 0.1 of a volt, so that is 0.2 volts, 200 millivolts. I'll just repeat the same thing now I've set it like that, and then we should be able to get a slightly clearer indication of the voltage. So yeah, I'm not sure whether I should be measuring this with respect to ground, or whether I should be measuring it with respect to maybe that RFN test point. Comments below. So as you can see, I've just masked off there the 3 centre pins on that 5-pin connection on the top row, just so that when I put this over here and solder these 2 pads here, which go to either end there, I'm minimising the risk of the solder leaking. A better thing to use is probably some capstan tape or something like that for that part, but yeah, I think that should be okay. That's just going to stop it leaking onto the nearby connections. And of course, the other problem I'm going to have with this is if something goes wrong, you need to use hot air or something to get it off. I wouldn't recommend pulling it off any other way. So hopefully you can just about see this. So I'm going to have a point solder there, a point there, one on either side. You can just about see 2 little traces or wires or something on the board underneath, and then it's the same here. The visible copper corner there on the lower right hand side, and the upper left one again to connection below. So yeah, I might just put a bit of blue tack or tape or something just to hold this in place while I just get the first point soldered, I think. So it's going to be too hard to film and solder this at the same point, but you can see what I did is I just taped this side of the board down and just soldered that one corner point there. Just add a little bit of flux, a little bit of solder, and as you can see, it's not moving, it's joined up. So I can just continue around now and do the same thing. I think these 2 should be okay. It's just the risk, you don't want them leaking, the solder leaking onto the connections and things underneath. So after cleaning up with a bit of IPA there, you can see that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. So loosely reassembled, let's give it a go. You can see I'm using a full-size DVD-R here. You can do that. Obviously it won't fit when you've got the lid and stuff on, but that's a good way of testing it because I've not got any DVD-R minis or whatever they are. So yeah, I'll hold the switches down, switch it on, point you at the screen if I can. Sorry, it's hard for me to do this. Let's see what happens. Hopefully it'll boot. I did look at the LED underneath. Yeah, that's booting. And previously it was flickering. After I reflowed the connections and tried it again, instead of the red LED flickering, it flickers once and then it remains on like an amber sort of colour, just stays on. So that seems to indicate that's working, I think. Previously this would have just said no disc, I think, with a burnt disc. So the DC voltage of that RFP test point, with relationship to ground, is as you can see 2.171. So let's just put an original disc in. Hold down the switch down, so the lid switches down. Wait for it to read from the disc. Yeah, it's loading. So you can see there's hardly any change there at all actually on this, and I think probably that's an indication I shouldn't really be measuring between ground and that RFP pad. Could be wrong, but yeah, let me just skip past the messages coming up. English, continue with that memory card. Yeah, 2119. So let's just switch it off and just take the disc out again. In fact, let's just power it down. Yeah, you can see it goes the other way. The voltage actually increases when it's not reading. So whilst here, I thought I'd have a look at the RFN signal as well. I don't know whether it's a slightly different phase alignment of the original, of the other RF signal, or whether, I don't know, I honestly don't know, because the voltage level there seems about the same actually. So it seems like you can use the RFP or RFN. So I'm in the last few steps of reassembling this. I think this has been fun to work on actually. I would suggest that these they're quite easy to work on these. Well, having said that, I've not done anything with the main board. The main board does look like a bit of a pain to get out, if I'm completely honest. But for the most part, it's pretty easy to strip these down and reassemble them. You can test them relatively easily in a sort of partially exposed state. The problem with the drivers, you need to, as you've seen, you need to run wires off there if you want to do any readings and measurements and things on the drive. You've got to, let's say, run wires out. You can't get to the thing without some sort of adapter. So we can connect that back up, and we're done. So after cleaning and reassembling, you can see it has come up pretty good actually. The retro bias worked really well on the front there. It's perhaps not 100% perfect, and it's going to come out worse on the camera. To my eye here, it looks pretty grey, but if I get the right type of light onto it, you can just see a very, very faint patch where it was a bit yellow, but it's to the eye you can't tell. It's one of those point of diminishing returns. I could spend a few more hours giving it a few more coats and things to get it perfect, but I think that looks pretty good actually. And I eventually finished retrobrighting this one as well. You can see it's still a bit yellowed around the stick. It's another one of those where let's say you get a very little for the amount of H2O2 you have to use, but I think that looks a lot better, a lot more presentable. Yeah, I think the graphics on the GameCube are awesome. Considering the Xbox and the PS2 are supposed to be better, they were more technically superior consoles. I think the GameCube gives a really great set of visuals. Cockpit view is a bit easier, I think. Incidentally, this sometimes makes a clicking noise when it's playing the intro to each round. I'll show you that in a minute. I'm just curious to know whether that's normal or not. There's no problems reading. It doesn't struggle at all. I don't think it's a read problem. I don't know whether it's a copy protection thing on this particular game or what. I have read that sometimes when the lasers start to break down, you can get clicking noises and things. Let's mute the TV. In fact, I'll turn the TV down a bit. Can you hear it? Now the video is playing perfectly. There's no problems at all. The game is absolutely flawless. I'll do the same thing. I'll just change to a different map to training, then go back to Death Star, just listen. Hear that? But it's perfect. The video's perfect, the sound's perfect, the audio track. So, and it's only when you do it, only when you toggle between, I'll show you. It's only when you toggle on this game between the rounds. If I go like that, listen. Do you hear it? But it's fine. The sound's fine, the graphics are fine, there's no issues. Same here. Always the same point. So I don't know, I'm just wondering if that's a copy protection check or something on this particular game. It could be. But the clicking, I don't know, what the hell's that? It's kind of reminiscent of the track 0 bump or whatever it is on the C64 1541 drives, where it it bumps to get track 0 position. It's a bit strange. But I'm convinced the drive's fine on this. Yeah, so sorry there wasn't a massive amount to show you here. I will do some follow-on videos, and thanks to Mum and Dad for getting me this from Car Boot Sale. It was a really good pick-up. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.